Good evening. Welcome. And especially welcome coming inside a dark hall on such a beautiful day. Wasn't this like the quintessential Portland spring day? I'm Christa Wessel, the morning host at All Classical Portland, which I hope you know is 89.9 on your radio, yes? Is everybody here aware that we have a 24-hour-a-day, non-commercial classical station in town? Okay, good. And thank you for your support during our recent spring fundraiser, too. You mean everything to the success of that station, so thanks. But enough about me and All Classical Portland. This is our guest conductor tonight. His name is Jean-Marie Zeitouni.
Good evening. Thank you.
I have so much fun saying your name. But it's an unusual name. It's French and...
The name is actually Egyptian, from my dad, who was born in Alexandria. And my mom is French, but they both moved to Canada and met in Montreal. So I was born in Montreal.
And so you are a Canadian citizen?
Yes.
And you live and work in Canada, in Montreal?
Yes.
And your principal job these days is as music director of Musici de Montreal?
Yes, it's a chamber orchestra in Montreal. It's been on for 30 years. I just took over 2.5 years ago. And I have an orchestra in the States as well, in Ohio, in Columbus Symphony.
Montreal, Columbus. Can't think of more different cities. And then the rest of the year, what, you travel around doing gigs like this?
Yes, I guest conduct a lot in North America, and I go to Europe, to Asia, and to South America.
And I've already forgotten how many times you've been here with the Oregon Symphony.
At least it's my 4th official time, but I actually, thinking back, it is my 5th time, because the first time I was here, you have to know that the Oregon Symphony was my first ever conducting engagements in the States. It was 63 years ago, no. It was 10 years ago, but in my conducting career is still a long time ago. And I was hired to do a regional tour. I was just starting, and Charles Calmer, who is the artistic administrator here, heard about me and decided to invite me, I think, because the associate conductor was not available. So I spent a week and a half on the coast of Oregon with these players. They had a residency there, so that was my U.S. debut was with this orchestra.
Well, if you've been with Musici for just a few years and Columbus for a few years, I wonder what it was 10 years ago that they heard about you. What did they hear?
Well, I don't know.
What were you doing back then?
Yes, I was associate conductor of a chamber orchestra in Quebec City that's called Les Violons du Roi, the Violins of the King. They're a group that they play on modern instrument, but with Baroque bows. So they play a lot of Handel and Mozart and Haydn, and I was actually brought up there to help them expand their repertoire. So with me, and these are the first recordings I did, were with them. We did Bartók, we did Astor Piazzolla, we did Britten, and so I expanded whatever they they were doing over there. But I was, kind of the second conductor over there, and yet then I started guest conducting, and probably through the grapevine, people here heard about me. It's a small world.
Well, obviously hearing great things about you, because 4 or 5 times here in front of this symphony. I know the musicians are quite fond of you, and I've heard you say, too, that you're quite fond of them
yes,
as well.
Absolutely. It's a marvelous group. It's very rare to have a group that has how can I say this, a sense of accomplishment and a high level of performance, and that has at the same time a great enjoyment in what they do. Usually in our business we tend to qualify the enjoyment as something amateurs would do. They do it for fun, and the pro, they do it seriously, and so they have a bad time performing. But and I know it's generalizing, but here you have kind of a good mix of the two, so that makes it quite unique.
Would you be surprised to learn that a number of them go out and sing karaoke together occasionally?
I wouldn't be surprised, but it's a pretty charming thought, yes.
So yeah, I just kind of curious. You had a free day today. You've had some free time, and you've known Portland, you know,
Yes,
over
yes,
the
yes,
course of 10
absolutely.
years.
I enjoy the city very much because it reminds me of Montreal on many levels. I mean, the cultural level, the fact that it's a city that is in human scale. It's not. You can live here and walk and use transportation, public transportation. So it's not to me, I mean, I say this like, it's not a car scale thing, it's a human scale thing, which I like. And of course, food, drinks, libraries, cafes, people who are very, you know, I say that, dressed originally, you know, you know, I find just to stay in town and have a feel of the town is an experience in itself.
That was so quaint the way you put that. So before we start talking about the music, I love getting to know these people that come visit us, so I hope you'll indulge me here. Could you tell me a little bit about how you ended up being a conductor? Did you start playing an instrument as a kid and then just found your way on to the front of the stage?
I'm an ensemble person. I play music. I have two passions in life. One of them is music, of course, and the other one is people and everything that has to do with social interaction with people and art and bettering of themselves and communication and so this is probably my motivation to become a leader of a group of people who makes music. You know, I didn't come from it from a performance desire or from desiring to be to have power or anything. I'm a percussionist, so it's very rare that percussionists play alone. We need a band in front of us, otherwise it's just the noise, you know. I'm totally kidding, but you see what I mean. So I enjoyed the playing in, you know, in company and listening to each other and communicating via the language of music. And eventually, I was kind of invited on many occasions to lead. You know, I think I have natural leader abilities, but I was through my adolescence and young adult life, I was reluctant to go in front because I didn't want to leave the group. You know, it's good to be part of the gang, and once you are in charge, then you cannot be part of the gang anymore. And so it was kind of a little mourning for me to say, okay, you know, I'll take the responsibility of the common good toward, you know, being in charge of the coherence, and at the same time, yes, I need to let go of being part of the of the group, which might sound funny to you, but it's something that's very important for me, you know. So, you know, the way I see my mental image in my head, instead of being at the top of the pyramid, you know, I see myself very much at the bottom of it and supporting what all of these great musicians do by empowering them, by enabling them, by reassuring them, by ensuring that what we do is going in the same way, but ultimately helping them express themselves with more freedom. And this is a way that I can be at peace with conducting. Short question, long answer.
No, I like it, and I think that I've talked to a couple of musicians who have been so impressed that you've remembered their names over the course of the 4 or 5 times you've been here, and you'll address them by name, even though it's been how many years since you were here last?
Probably 3 years I've been
Yeah,
here.
I mean, that's completely impressive given how much guest conducting you do.
Yes, but I'm not good with faces, but I'm good with sounds, and I'm good with voices, and you know, there's nothing generic about what we do. To me, it's normal that if I have an interaction with someone, and in rehearsal we do have personal interaction, because they're not, sometimes they may not be, you know, they're talking and I'm talking. It's sometimes I'm talking or I'm gesturing and they're playing, but through what they do and to how they play, their personality comes out, and this is how they, you know, they're basically presenting themselves. So to me, it's not even like that I make a mental exercise of remembering their name because it's nice to do that. It's really just that I know them. Probably I don't even know if they have kids or if they are married or what they put in their coffee, but I know some very intimate part of them that come in their way of blowing in their horns or playing with their bow, and this is a very personal contact, so I remember that.
I adore this guy. I really do. You have a way of talking about the relationship of leading musicians, but still being one of the music makers.
Yes, and this is really how I see it. Sometimes, especially when they have a solo, they're the one who are conducting, and the rest of a group and I are there to support them and to create the right context for them to be freer. So I am the one with the stick, but I'm certainly not the one who's always conducting.
Well, nowhere is that more evident than in a concerto like the Chopin tonight, too, because that's a big collaboration. We've got a guest pianist and the marvelous Bertrand Chamayou.
Yes. Wonderful Bertrand, very poetic pianist who has a great brain for understanding the musical styles, and he also has a very candid heart for expressing. There's something very, and you will make up your own opinion on this, but I give you mine because I have the mic in my hand right now. But he is, there's a sincerity, a great sincerity about what he's doing, and especially in a piece like the Chopin, compared to, for example, a Brahms concerto or another concerto, Chopin's music is really about freedom, expression, and romanticism in the piano playing. Chopin is not the best orchestrator, or he writes poetry, and the orchestra is there really as a what do you call it? You put the pearl in the oyster, so the orchestra is the oyster. So the sound of the orchestra and the way we articulate and the way we will phrase has to be an extension of what the pianist. He needs to feel like he is as free as if he was playing alone, and we are, just being the extension of his musical ideas and his musical intimacy with the work.
That Chopin, it's so romantic, this second concerto. It just drips and oozes love, you know?
Yeah.
And it would be so easy. I was impressed when I heard the concert last night that it didn't sound overly dramatic. It was lovely and tasteful and just free enough.
Yes, and this is the way I like it. Of course, if I listen to it, I'm ready for anything. If a pianist indulge to a point of extreme, I will, surrender to it and I will go with it. The way we've been playing it right now is maybe a little bit more refined in the approach, and I think that it's actually an approach that is close to Chopin's mind about rubato and about how to approach a work like this. He talks about, you know the word rubato, of course. We have an idea that it means, it talks about tempo and freedom and etc. It comes actually from the Italian rubare, that means to steal. And so it's stealing time and then giving back time. So there needs to be a feel of elasticity into this. Chopin himself was saying, you have to imagine like you are blowing on a candle without the candle, the light dying. So if you blow too hard, you kill it. So you just have to gently, make the flame bend without vanishing, and then it comes back. And with this very elegant elasticity that Bertrand plays it, and it's a pleasure, to be the extension of this.
But the Brahms is all your interpretation, and I've heard, can I just play the opening notes of this Brahms symphony, because there's so many conductors, let's hear it, and then we'll talk about it. Let me do it one more time. I mean, that was very simple, dee-da, but I've heard a lot of conductors say, dee-da, you know, like to really draw it out. And I didn't hear that from you last night either. It's just very simple.
Yes.
I liked it.
Good, very good.
And it's like that opening. It's not a big Beethoven opening. Ta-dam! It's just, dee-dum.
Very simple, very natural, very flowing. And this symphony, of course, and many of you know that work and love that work, of course. It is a great structural, a great mental, a great emotional journey. And it's fantastic that it begins so simply, you know, in a way, and then we get gradually into a great complexity, a great, I mean, the structure of this work is unbelievable. I was reviewing this afternoon again, and I felt like the most lucky person in the world to, that, you know, my job will be to come tonight and to do this work, you know. It's just as simple as that.
Well, that final movement is the one that knocks me. Well, I have to say in the third movement, the triangle solo,
Yes.
not really a solo, but the triangle part is insane in that third
Absolutely,
movement.
and it's you know, it's a touch of color that Brahms uses only in that movement, and they're very rarely a piece of music where there's a triangle feature. You know, I can think of Liszt first piano concerto where there's the ding ding in the scherzo, and then Brahms, of course, which it's kind of have almost a rock and roll triangle solo in the middle of the third movement. But you know, it's I mean, you know, the first two movements are with an orchestra that is enhanced, a little bit bigger, but still it's a classical orchestra. You know, I mean, there are four horns, but there are two trumpets, timpani, etc. And then he will add in the third movement a piccolo, a contrabassoon, and the triangle, so the orchestra becomes bigger, and then he will add the trombones only in the last movement. So even, it's almost like the work, it's so inclined to develop itself and to metamorph that even the orchestra during the work will get a metamorphosis.
The way we talked about the final movement, too, really helped my appreciation of that final movement last night, too. So we talk about, Brahms had this thing for theme and variations as a form. He wrote a lot of those.
Yes.
Variations on a theme by Haydn, for instance. The last movement is basically
It's a theme and variation. And the simplest, I mean, I'm saying that half serious, but I mean, basically, it's a passacaglia, which is a repeated bass, or a chaconne, if you prefer, like Purcell writes tons of them, where you have repeated notes in the bass, 8 bars, and then some variations occur above them, and then they transform and transform and transform and make this unbelievable set of variation that only Brahms could have come up with, but it's all based on a very single progression of 8 bars. Ti, 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 bim, bam, and that's it. And all on this, I mean, it's almost like you are witness to the creation of a galaxy or something like that. It's that impressive. Sorry about the singing, by the way.
Well, I might put you on the spot again because that opening dee-dee, dee-dee, is the basis for the whole symphony.
Yeah, it's the basis for this. I mean, in music, we call them a suite of thirds, so they are consecutive thirds. B, G, E, C, A, F sharp, D sharp, B. So, and it's just the suite of thirds, and the whole structure of the work, the way each of the melodies are formed, the way each of the accompaniment lines are formed, are based on, this is omnipresent. So just like in Beethoven 5, when you have the ta-ta-ta-tam, that is the basic germ for the construction of this wonderful edifice, a wonderful construction, the same way Brahms will use a simple, basic material. And it needs to be simple because it allows us, I mean, it's simple, but it's open to so many interpretations, so many creations that at the same time, it makes sure that there is a connection between the infinitely small and the infinitely big in the work. That's the work of a genius.
And the Messian, which begins the program. Olivier Messiaen's, can we say it in French? I haven't heard it in French.
Yes, Les Offrandes Oubliées. So, and there's a test after this, so you have to, and so Forgotten Offerings, it's a work that is very spiritual, I mean, we should not be afraid of saying, it's a work that is religious in its approach. It's one of the first of Messiaen's orchestral work, so it's a work of a young composer who is an organist and a fervent, a devout Christian. And he is basically, how can I say this? It's kind of a poetic paraphrase on the love between Jesus and mankind. 3-part music. It's a short work, about 11 minutes. And the first part talks about the suffering of Jesus on the cross. It's basically like a little mini passion, if you will, where Jesus is suffering for and gives his life for us, and we tend to forget about it. Why did we forget about it? Second part, mankind, greed, pursuit of success, everything that you can think of that will keep you away from love, whether it's with others or with spirituality and everything. And this is the struggling part. And in the music, it will be obvious when this second part starts. You will see it starts with, the beginning is all a melancholic meditation on the suffering, and then you get the brass and percussion who come in, and the almost like a storm scene where there's so many things and everything goes in every direction, and it expresses the chaos of the mankind being lost in the pursuit of something that is ungodly or that is unhumane. And after this, the third part is, and it's the longest part, very, very, very slow tempo, a kind of an adagio for just violins and viola, very intimate, very simple, and it's the reconciliation where it is said that God or Jesus still loves us and we are forgiven, and so the outcome is positive. And of course, Messiaen, who was he was kind of a sponge in the 20th century. Every influences that he could find, he would kind of appropriate and integrate in his music. Later in life, he wrote works like the great Turangalila Symphony, which is still a work that is spiritually inspired, but it talks more about the Buddhism and the deities of every religion in the world. But when he was starting in his 20s and 30s, he didn't have, he didn't know so much the music of India, of Bali, of China, etc., etc. He knew his music, the French music, the European music, and his vision of spirituality was mostly Christian. 40 years later, it expanded and opened the door to the great work of his later part of his life, which are even more universal and speaks to every people of the earth.
This is Olivier Messiaen's first published work. So
Yes.
in it, can we play some?
Of course.
In it, you can hear the influences of Ravel.
There's Debussy is there, and there's always, with Messiaen, there's always a singing, a lyric quality.
Oh,
Whoops.
that's not it.
It sounds so much like Chopin. Oh, wait a minute.
It's shocking. Oh, I see what I've done. Stop.
He didn't steal anything from Brahms. That was actually the real Brahms.
It's you would think working at a radio station that could operate CD players. Oh, you for saying that. She says, you're not perfect. And it's true.
If we were, we'd be God.
It was, it's on a program setting or something. I can't figure it out.
Well, then you will hear it later for sure. I guarantee you.
I'm sorry. I can hear like advanced Ravel or advanced Debussy. It's very colorful and lush until you get to that middle section, the sin section, yes. But it's been a pleasure to become acquainted with this piece for sure, as it's been a pleasure to become acquainted with you too. I know that you spend so much time guest conducting. Where are you off to from here?
Oh, I'm back to Canada. Actually, I'm going to Edmonton, so in Alberta, another romantic, mostly romantic program. And then I go to Quebec City, which is not far from my hometown, for another romantic program, it seems. My March was very romantic. I had the New Orleans with Saint-Saëns Symphony with organ, here the Brahms, Dvorak in Edmonton, and Forêt in Quebec City. And then I go back to Columbus for some Strauss four last songs and Mozart Requiem. So pretty dark, but pretty also.
Well, I know that one of the lights in your life is your brand new baby girl.
Yes, Gabrielle. She's turning 16 months. She changed my life for the best, for the absolute best. Now I miss her, man, thanks to you. She's my life, and as much as I can, I bring her along with me. And she's already been many places, including Hawaii. She's been to California. She's been to many places in the States. She's been to Europe. This time, unfortunately, they couldn't be with me. But yes, she's a music lover, very young music lover. She bangs on her xylophone with passion, and makes a percussion daddy very proud. And yes, it changes a lot the life of somebody who travels. It makes you want to be more sedentary a little bit, but she's good. She's good.
Well, thank you for spending so much time with us this week, and thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you.
This is
My
Jean-Marie
pleasure.
Zeitouni.
Enjoy the concert. Thank you.